Right now, with the draft behind us and the trade deadline a couple of weeks away, we're joined by Pirates general manager Ben Cherington. Ben, Andrew Filipponi, and Chris Muller, how are you today?
I'm great, Andrew. How you doing, guys?
We're not bad. Give us your take on O'Neal Cruz 26 games into his 2022 Major League season, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's been mostly what we were expecting. He does some really exciting things on the field. You see things that just most players can't do. Defensive players, guys can't make because of the arm strength, how hard he hits the ball, the running on the bases. So really exciting. He's does a lot of good things on both sides of the ball. And then we're also seeing a young player who's still getting better and, facing Major League pitching consistently for the first time in the middle of the season. Guys that can do different things than what he was facing in the minor leagues. And he's, adjusting to that, and we'll need to continue to make adjustments to that. So I think it's been mostly what we were expecting, a lot of exciting and also ways to go forward, and he's working hard at it.
Ben, how do you evaluate him at the plate, strictly based on the fact that he's seen it seems like a pretty high percentage of left-handed pitching for 100-plus plate appearances thus far?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think it's in the long run will be good that that's happened because we clearly see him as an everyday player, and to be an everyday player, you got to face left-handers. So maybe a silver lining that he's gotten to see that many and some good ones too this early on. It just helps him get those reps, get those sight lines, like how he needs to adjust and face those guys. So I think long term that's good. Again, he's an unusual player in a lot of ways, and one of the things that makes him unusual is because of how hard he hits the ball and his reach at the plate. You sort of have to evaluate him a little bit differently than a different hitter because there really are some pitches he swings at that actually are good swing decisions for him. That wouldn't be for most guys, but might be for him. But then, like anything else, you take that too far. And that becomes a limitation. So I think tightening that up a little bit. That's what he's focused on. Tightening in that zone a little bit. That's what he's focused on. By and large, I think it's good he's faced as many lefts as he has.
Ben, if you wanted to keep him in the lineup, but you wanted to put somebody else at shortstop, where would O'Neal Cruz play?
Well, we're confident in him going out to the outfield, and still wouldn't rule out that happening. That's up to Shelty.
Yep.
But he's done that in AAA, and we're prepared for him to do that in the big leagues. And I would expect at some point it will happen. I'd bet more on that than it not happening. Some of that will just be depending on, based on who's on the roster at the time, and there may be certain alignments or certain pitchers we're facing where that just gives a better chance to match up. So we'll leave that to Shelty, but we'd have no issue with him doing that.
Has he done anything defensively at shortstop? Or I guess I should say, to ask it this way, Ben, not done anything that would warrant him moving, or has he held up his end of the bargain, in your opinion, defensively at that position?
Oh, I think we think he's fully held up his end of the bargain defensively at that position. And it's not surprising that he has. It's good that he has because it helps us just reinforce the message that, if he plays another position or if he's exposed to another position, it's the same as we would talk about with a minor league player. It's not, people sometimes make the assumption that, well, that's because he can't play short or he can't do this, so they're exposing him. That's really often not the case. In his case, we believe he can play short. If he's exposed to another position, if he ends up playing another position at some point, it's simply because we're trying to make the team better and help and win games. That's it. So, no, I think he's fully held up his bargain on the defensive side.
Pirates general manager Ben Cherington's our guest here on The Fan. Ben, you guys over the weekend drafted Tamar Johnson with the 4th pick. MLB.com, anonymous scout said, as a hitter, he's a combination of Wade Boggs and Vladimir Guerrero. Is that what your scouts saw?
Those are strong names. We really hope he's the best version of Tamar Johnson, and I know that's an unsatisfying answer, but that's what we believe, and we're thrilled to take him. Obviously, we got to sign him, work on that, and the physical skills stand out. You can watch video, you can see the bat speed and the power, and he does have a knack for getting the barrel of the ball. And we really like him as a hitter. Obviously, we wouldn't have taken him where we did if we didn't. From my perspective, getting to know him a little bit before the draft, I was struck by what seems like a combination of confidence and humility that's pretty common with really good major league players or elite performance in any sport. Probably, there's obviously got to be confidence there, but there's got to be enough humility to have that burning desire to keep getting better and not think you've got everything figured out. And he seems to have I feel like he's got a good combination of both those things. And then he's also just this very connected personality, where wherever he is, you can see people drawn to him, no matter what they look like or where they're from. And that's exciting to think about that kind of personality inside a clubhouse.
Ben, how do you balance when you're going through and you're listening and talking with your scouts about the draft, maybe picking a high school bat like a Termarr Johnson, who might take a little bit longer just on the usual timeline for a high school player? How do you balance that and deciding whether or not to draft a player with also wanting to have this team be a competitor maybe sooner rather than later, and how that all kind of ties together?
Well, I think you start just by being very clear at the outset. This is about getting the best player, not concerned about which demographic it comes out of. Let's get the best players for the Pirates. And then, you get into our process in the draft room and how we weigh information. The process itself is designed to kind of manage that risk, that near term, like development time risk that you're talking about. How do you place a value on the guy that's maybe closer versus the guy that's further away, and how do we weigh the skills so we're not sort of biased in either direction? So the process we've built itself should help us with that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we just remind ourselves that if you make the right choice, very quickly the timeline doesn't matter, because the players then declare themselves the right choice. And if you make the wrong choice, then the timeline doesn't matter, because they declare themselves that way, and then other guys pass them. So we just have to make the best choice and not care about if it's high school or college or in between, and that's going to be different. Some years it's going to be one way, some years it's going to be the other. It just depends on where the board is. In this case, we did feel like in this particular draft there's a really strong group of high school position players up top. I think the draft bore that out with the selections in the first 10 picks, and Termarr was one of those guys. We spent a ton of time on him, and we're thrilled that we were able to select him, and look forward to working on trying to get him signed and get him into black and gold.
Ben Cherington with us. Do you anticipate when he signs that his first minor league game will be at shortstop?
If he signs, I'm confident his first minor league game will be a shortstop. And then, that's where he'll go out and play. And, he's confident. We've had this question about O'Neal Cruz a lot. He's confident that he can play. Termarr is confident he can play shortstop. We think he can play shortstop. Doesn't mean he wouldn't be exposed to another position at some point. But he's got work ethic. He's got good hands, feet, instincts, aptitude. He knows how to play on the dirt. He's gotten a lot of coaching in that area. So, we're excited to work with him on the defensive side of the ball also.
Yeah. Ben, we got a text here from a listener named Kevin. I don't always want to inundate you with listener questions because those can get wacky. I don't know if you're familiar with our audience, but they can come out of left field. This one, though, is interesting. Kevin wants to know, with the trade deadline coming, how do other general managers make trade offers? Do they send an informal text, or is there like an app or website that Ben logs onto and there's a bunch of trade offers there?
It's actually a really good idea. I hadn't thought about the app, but maybe someone should start working on that, an unhackable app. But no, it can come in all the same ways that you would communicate with people: text, phone call. I haven't done one over Zoom yet, so I guess I haven't done that. But yeah, it's typically a text or a phone call, and it can be either or both, or both at the same time, and it's just we use all the same things that you would use to communicate.
So you literally might have had a trade discussion, at some point in your career that started with another GM texting you "sup?" ?
Absolutely, and sometimes with emojis or GIFs attached, and it's not. We try not to take each other too seriously.
When are we going to see Contreras again, Ben?
Soon. This was a designed, intentional, deep breath reset in the middle of the season, with mostly based on looking at his work volume over the course of his career, including last year, which was interrupted, and obviously the year before was interrupted by pandemic. And we really want to be careful with this one. We love Rolancy. He's an important part of our future. And we really, ideally, knock on wood, want him to be pitching, ideally in the major leagues at the end of September, at the end of the season, or I guess early October in this case. And so in order to do that safely, we felt like we needed to, take the foot off the gas a little bit in the middle of the season. That's mostly what this is about. So he was optioned. He's continued his work. He's been throwing, consistently throughout. He never stopped throwing. He's been off a mound. He'll start pitching again for Indy now that we're past the All-Star break. We'll get the pitch count built back up, assuming he does his part, which we expect he will. We'd hope there's opportunity in the major leagues before too long.
What has your impression been so far of the year that Mitch Keller has had, Ben?
Really impressed because it's taken a ton of work on his part over a period of time. It hasn't just been during the season. He worked his tail off in the off season, I think, to put himself in a position physically to then make some of the adjustments he's made in season. But then in season, he's clearly changed his pitch repertoire. He's went to work on some pitch design work with the sinker and the slider to change those pitches. And he's gone into battle with them. He is literally a different pitcher than he was at the beginning of the season. And he's still getting better. That's the thing. He's obviously improved his performance, which is exciting. And we're proud of him for doing that. But he's also still getting better. There's still another level that he can, and we believe we'll get to. So I think it's been a super exciting year for him.
How quickly can he get to that next level that you believe there is? Like how fast can fans, is that something that if fans are listening to this right now, that can happen in your experience for a player on a very swift timeline once they've started to make positive changes, or no?
Sure, it can, but I don't have the answer on this one either, and none of us really know.
Yep.
Super talented athletes, guys you've been around. They sometimes have a way of making that last adjustment that leads to improved performance much quicker than any of the rest of us could, or the rest of us can even imagine. So I wouldn't want to put any ceiling on it. He's working. He works extremely hard. He knows what he wants to do. He continues to get better, and I think he will. And I don't want to forecast what it looks like the rest of the season. I'm just we're to be excited to watch him and support him.
Ben Cherington's with us. Ben, if Jose Quintana or his agent came to you right now and said, we're interested in staying in Pittsburgh beyond 2022, how would Ben react to that?
I think you always want the open door to that. A phone on for that conversation. I'd want players or agents to always know, not just know that they can, but to make that phone call if they wanted to. And we respect Q so much. He's such a pro. He's done a great job. He's been just a delight to be around for all of us, but most importantly for our young pitchers. He's been terrific for that group, and because he's such a pro, he also knows that and we've had this conversation with him. Like, he also knows that this time of year, teams are going to call, and it's our job to take the calls and listen. And so I think you just have to keep the phone on. I think you just have to communicate honestly as best you can with the player, in this case Q, with other teams, and see where that leads us. Ultimately, what the best outcome is what's best for the Pirates and best for Q, and I don't think those aren't always mutually exclusive. We desire for them to be the same thing, and let's see where we end up. But he's been terrific to have around.
Ben, what has your impression been of Brian Hayes' offense, specifically the power numbers or overall lack thereof? And I know that the entry into the big leagues was kind of took it by storm, unbelievable offensive numbers. How have you felt about the way his offense, his power, has progressed or not progressed this year?
Well, I think he knows better than anybody else that he does some things as a hitter that are probably the hardest things to teach, and because of that, there's an opportunity for him to be even better as a hitter than he has been. What he has been is good, but what he can be is better than that, and because he does the two hard, and this is my opinion, but he does the two hardest things, which is he recognized balls and strikes. He swings at the right pitches for the most part. There's an exception every once in a while for everybody, but he does a really good job swinging at balls and strikes, recognizing pitches, and he hits the ball extremely hard. So hitters who do those two things well have an opportunity to then do a whole lot of other things really well. If you didn't have those two things, then you'd say, well, maybe lower our expectations. But he does the two hardest things really well, which gives him this incredible platform to build off of, and he's working his tail off to do that. And we've seen it even inside this season, although the power numbers haven't surged the way he wants them to, the way we think they can. Even inside this season, you can go back and look at chunks of the season where you could see it start to happen. And there was a stretch in May where it really looked like he's starting to drive the ball, he's getting in the air more. And sure enough, there was a handful of balls caught right at the warning track or even over the fence sometimes, or he hit them into that little corner at PNC in left center, which is like the only place that a ball wouldn't be a home run in the big leagues, things like that. So I think even inside this season, there was a stretch of time where, could have easily had more power outcomes, which might have made the numbers look different. So it's in there. And so what we say to him is, and what we, how we think would just be to continue to support him, to pursue the next level. We really think he can get there.
Pirates GM Ben Cherington. All right, it's rapid fire round now, Ben. Better baseball movie, Bull Durham or Major League?
Ooh, it totally depends on mood.
Ben, there's a right answer here, man. There's a right answer. Come on, say it.
I know. Well, look, if I think of myself in baseball, I think of myself on a bus with the team, so I'd have to say Major League.
Okay.
If that's the environment
Yes.
you're in.
All right. Preferred hot dog condiment, mustard or ketchup?
Mustard.
2 for 2, Ben.
Okay.
2 for 2.
Better thing to chew on in the dugout, sunflower seeds or Big League Chew?
I'll go sunflower seeds.
Okay.
Do you really chew on sunflower seeds, Pony, or do you break
Not
the?
really.
You're not. You're like a cow if you're chewing them.
That was poorly worded. Favorite old ballpark, Fenway or Wrigley?
Oh man, now it's. I mean, I've spent. It's not fair. I've spent so much more time at Fenway than Wrigley, so I'll have to stay with Fenway.
IPAs or light beer?
Not close. IPAs.
Not close.
What are you talking?
Ben, when we had when we had Daniel Vogel back on, he said he's more of a Miller Lite Coors Light guy. We twisted his arm.
Good.
And said, and we said, you got to try what is a local delicacy, Icy Light Mango. Have you tried one of those yet?
I haven't. I am aware of Icy Light. I have not tried one of those.
Oh, no, not just Icy Light. I mean,
Icy Light Mango.
Yeah, you got to have the mango. I mean, our producer, Donnie Football, is a football guy through and through. He's a baseball guy, but he drinks mango like it's going out of style.
Yeah, you got to at least give it a shot.
I'll keep it in mind. I will.
Ben, thanks for being a good sport. Good luck in the second half of the season.
Thanks,
we'll
Ben.
have you on again soon, okay?
All right, guys. Thanks.
There you go.